Welcome back to the class, everyone. When it comes to the topic of Galactic Legends, we all know quite a bit about them. We know that they are some of the best characters in the entirety of the game, and on top of that, we know that they want a ton of our resources. But in today's video, I want to take a closer analysis and really see how much do they need. And the big emphasis on that today is going to be revolving around relic levels. If you do want to check out a similar guide to this where we talked about which Galactic Legend Zetas you can probably skip, do check out the description below. I'll go ahead and link that video in there because it kind of deals with a very similar idea. So how we're going to do this is we are going to rank all the Galactic Legends, which ones are best with higher relic levels and which ones aren't necessarily bad, but can still function very well at a lower relic level. In addition to that, I'll also throw in my 2 cents in regards to what relic level you should probably stop at on each Galactic Legend, because ultimately what we're trying to do here isn't just compare, but we're trying to maximize value. Now, before we do get into the actual list, I do want to make 2 acknowledgments as to why we're talking specifically about Galactic Legends. Obviously, they're very good characters, as we've already mentioned in here, but there's also 2 main things that make their relic levels more important than any other character. And the first is the fact that they have the Galactic Legend Unique. It's something they all have, where they get an extra 10% max health and max protection per relic amplifier. So every single relic level you give them, they're going to have more survivability. This is more important for some of them rather than others, but we'll get to that in the comparison. The other thing that, or the other reason why the relic levels are so important is because every single one of them has some interaction with mastery where they are getting more of it. The reason why this is relevant is because your mastery is based off of your relic level. The more or the higher relics you have, the more mastery you get. So the more you not only benefit from the raw bonuses here, but you also get these special effects on top of them as well from the additives from either the leadership or the unique or whatever it is. So now getting to the actual comparative list here, JML is going to sit very comfortably at the #1 spot. And the reason, well, there's several reasons, but one of the main reasons is he is going to get so much more survivability. And this is important because he is the only taunting tank Galactic Legend where he is going to be taking the majority of the hits. A lot of the other Galactic Legends, they have other good tanks in their team that can do that for them, and you don't have to worry about your Galactic Legend dying right out the gate because they're not going to be targeted at all. Jedi Master Luke, this is not the case. He needs as much survivability as he can get because once he's down, assuming Jolie isn't there to revive him, then the whole team pretty much just falls apart because, again, he is the leader, he is the Galactic Legend. In addition to that, there's one other really key thing that it's important for his relic level to be very high, and it's the fact that most of your team's damage is going to be based off of Jedi Master Luke's protection, and it all has to do with how inherited teachings work. They're going to be able to call other light side allies to assist, dealing 90% less damage. So even your really high damage dealing attackers like Jedi Knight Luke, Cal Kestis, General Skywalker, whoever it is, they're not going to be doing that much because they're only going to be doing 10% of what their normal damage should be. But in addition to that, they're going to deal true damage to the target enemy based on 60% of Jedi Master Luke's base max protection. So the higher relic level he is, not only is protection a part of his mastery, so he's already getting that higher, but he's going to be able to take advantage of the Relic Amplifier Galactic Legend Unique. And in addition to that, Relic 9 specifically gave an extra protection bonus to tanks, of which Jedi Master Luke definitely is. Pretty much what this amounts to is, not only is it important for his survivability to be high because he's going to be taking most of the heat, but most of your team's damage is going to be coming from his overall protection level. And I would say, even for those of you who are on a more restricted crystal budget or whatever it is for relics that you're getting, he is still an R9 character. If you look through my roster, the only Relic 9 characters I have are either requirements like Darth Revan or Darth Malak and Jedi Master Luke. I don't really bother with it on any other character, but it is so important to get his squad to be able to do the best things that it wants to do, like take on Lord Vader as well as JMK. So comfortably sits at the #1 spot. And our second spot is going to be Rey herself. And the reason for this is because, similar to Jedi Master Luke, her relic level is not only going to enhance her overall ability, but it's also going to enhance her overall team's viability. So when we dig into her kit, again, very similar things with the Galactic Legend Unique, as well as the leadership involving mastery. But the one other thing that I really want to point out is Lifeblood. Lifeblood is going to remove 25% of her health, and the target light side ally gains bonus protection equal to the amount lost. All other light side allies gain half that amount. So Lifeblood is going to give a really nice protection shield to all of her allies whenever she uses it, and it's always going to be based off of her max health. And one of the best ways to improve her overall max health is from her relic amplifier. Not only is it a part of this naturally, but in addition to that, the Galactic Legend unique is going to add 10% on top of that. It's also just not really a bad idea to have her at higher relic levels. One of the things that is also in here is normal offense, which is going to impact the amount of damage her ultimate is going to do, and that can really be a game changer. While there are a lot of counters out there that can typically control Rey, take her out, if any of those start to lose control, like Star Killer, extra damage on her ultimate is definitely not something you want to see, especially if she's had the chance to get a lot of mastery from the enemy gaining turn meter, which is something Starkiller can do, assuming the Rey team is elaborate enough to stop him from ripping the inspired offer. So pretty much in the second spot, to me, Rey is still very much a Relic 8 for a roster of my size. If you want to go beyond that, I wouldn't necessarily tell you wrong, but definitely stick to the overall priority list. Next up is going to be Leia, and Leia is very much the newest Galactic Legend, no real way around that. And ultimately, it's kind of silly to put her on the list at all right now, because if you're at all invested in the raid, she is the best character for the entire thing, and having her at Relic 8 pretty much guarantees a 2.5 million score without anyone helping her at all. And if you're willing to do a little bit of a remod and follow some instructions, you can even get a max score with her on it entirely. Now, if we ignore the raid just a little bit and go for more of a long-term perspective, she still wants really high relic levels. While she does differ from JML a little bit in the sense that she is not a taunting tank, she's still a tank and will severely punish you for not going immediately after her, because she is going to reduce the enemy's mastery every single time they don't deal damage to her during their turn. So the strategy, and this is pretty similar in a lot of other counters, but the strategy whenever you go against a Leia team, it's to keep hitting Leia until Leia is dead. So her relic level being higher, making her more durable, making her harder to kill, makes pretty much every single other counter out there more difficult, because you have to take her down before you can start killing her sides. If you do want to kill her sides, you risk the fact that she's going to lower your mastery, put it in the ground, and then a lot of your attackers will just stop missing entirely. You won't deal that much damage, and you'll overall be weakened, and then she'll eventually just end up destroying you. So again, not exactly a taunting tank, so doesn't get all the benefits that, say, JML would. She also doesn't have damage based off of max protection. Her ultimate does have a little bit of damage based off of her max health, so having that nicer isn't bad, but at the same time, that's not really why you should be doing it. You should be doing it so that she can last longer in the battle and ultimately cause more issues, whether you're using her on offense or defense. Next up is going to be Lord Vader, our first dark side Galactic Legend. Lord Vader really does benefit from being tankier and having more mastery, and one of the reasons for this is because when he gets to the very end of the battle, he's typically gained enough mastery through his ultimate ability from taking it from his allies. He's going to be very difficult to kill. This is going to be pretty different from the lower Galactic Legends that we look at, that basically once they're the only one left standing, they're really easy to kill, like Jabba or Jedi Master Kenobi. Lord Vader really doesn't have this. Even if you manage to kill all the sides, which can be difficult, he himself can prove to be not so fun to deal with, and he just loves every single thing that he's going to get from that last relic level, in addition to all the other things that he's getting that we've kind of already talked about in regards to mastery and just overall more survivability. But damage, armor penetration, armor, as well as health and protection are all very nice to add to his kit. And we didn't mention on the last character, but the relic level that I would typically want to leave Leia and Lord Vader at is Relic 8. Don't necessarily need to go all the way to Relic 9. Relic 8 on Leia right now is kind of a no-brainer just because of the raid, and Lord Vader just becomes a lot harder to kill, being that much tankier at the higher relic level, again, even if you can take down the sides. Next up is going to be Supreme Leader Kylo Ren, which it pains me a little bit to put him this low on the list. I think, what is he, number 5 here? But the reason is, he just will kill almost everything that he wants to kill at Relic 7. You really only have to build up his relic level higher when you are consistently facing Galactic Legends also of higher relic levels. And he could even beat them sometimes in the off chance, but I just recently took mine to Relic 8, and I've had multiple battles now where he has come down into the red, barely made it out, and that extra survivability that he's getting from the final relic level does really help. You're not really going to help your team out that much. They're always going to die. That's just kind of how Supreme Leader Kylo Ren works, whether on offense or defense. His team typically just falters, but he himself will almost always pull out victorious, and adding extra relic levels to him. While it won't benefit as much as Lord Vader or Leia or Rey or Jedi Master Luke, it still is really nice to have. I felt very good about doing it. But for most players out there, when we're looking at a max value overall, Relic 7 might be fine depending on what you're working on. More relics is always better though. Next up is going to be C. Now this isn't factoring in anything that Bane is about to do, so I guess take this with a grain of salt if you're going to be getting him. I haven't theory crafted anything in that regard. This is just generally where he sits, and he's a very similar theme to that of Supreme Leader Kylo Ren, is the fact that you're just doing it for more survivability, because C needs to live long enough to be able to get off his ultimate ability where he can zap his enemies, and having 10% more health and protection, as well as everything else that he has in there, can be very helpful with that. The reality is he's still going to beat most of the things he wants to beat at Relic 7. He doesn't need the survivability as much as Supreme Leader Kylo Ren does because he steals his opponent's protection, but overall it can be nice to have in some of those tighter matches. But really, he's going to continue to beat Malicos, Malgus, or Rey teams without Ben even at Relic 7. It doesn't hurt to have a little bit more, but does land him a little bit lower on the list. Next up is going to be JMK, and I know this is going to sound really weird to a lot of people because you're probably thinking JMK is one of the best Galactic Legends, very versatile both offensively and defensively. And the truth is, most of his kit and most of his team's kit really just doesn't need any help in the relic area. They have so many different tools that you're not really reliant on a lot of these stats in here, like his critical damage or his overall offense or crit chance. You're going to have a ton of armor shreds or insta kills from Kat, or I guess she only has the one insta kill, but she has armor shred. You have locked healing immunity, so you have all these tools to be able to deal with a bunch of things. And his survivability really doesn't matter all that much, because how the counter always plays out is you leave JMK for last, you make sure he doesn't have any allies so they're not assisting him every single time he goes, and then in addition to that, he's just not that hard to kill even if you have him at Relic 8 or Relic 9. Again, Galactic Legend still is going to have a ton of benefit, just not as much as the ones above him. And ultimately, I think most people can get by with him just fine at Relic 7. Next up is going to be Jabba the Hutt, who is going to land himself in dead last. Again, this is not meant to be a knock on Jabba to say that he's bad, and you'll probably find this really weird because most people out there that you see are going to have a Relic 8 Jabba, but the real reason why we all have a Relic 8 Jabba isn't because Jabba's amazing at Relic 8, it's because he needed Relic 8 to get the max score in the crate raid that is no longer relevant. And that's fine, like if you have him Relic 8, you used it for the raid, great, good for you. I did the same, it was good value. It doesn't hurt to have him at Relic 8 for general purposes. But the majority of the counters out there, they don't care what relic level Jabba is at, like at all. He only has one ability that actually does damage, and at that point, that's not really how you're going to beat the enemy team. You're going to beat them because Boosh is going to be blowing everyone up with her many thermals, which that also did thermals, and that isn't really reflective of his relic level at all. And you also, similar to JMK, you don't have to worry about them killing him right off the bat because he's going to be hidden, and you're not going to be able to really target him for the majority of the battle. There is the off chance that SLKR's AoE can wipe him out, but if the enemy SLKR's AoE is already killing Jabba, most of the team is dead to begin with. Maybe Chrysanthemum is still standing, or a really tanky Embo that had foresight at a clutch time. But overall, again, it's not changing the counter just because he's not dying to SLKR's AoE. So overall, I would put him at Relic 7 as well, along with Jedi Master Kenobi. So in quick review, from top to bottom, JML definitely takes the top spot. Relic 9, easy. Rey, Leia, and Lord Vader definitely fall into the next category. They're a little bit interchangeable depending on your roster, but really function very well at Relic 8. SLKR, C, Jedi Master Kenobi, and Jabba, all still very nice to have at higher relics, but ultimately will function well at Relic 7. Prioritizing SLKR at the highest for Relic 8 because he really does like to survive and kill things. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. And as always, stay awesome.